For anybody working with microphones, it's important that you know how to set the input level so that you can get the best out of your recordings. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Wavy Wayne from WavyWayne.com, and this channel is to help you jump and leap over the hurdles of recording and mixing in your home and project studios. Whether you're a brand new beginner or a seasoned professional, there's always something to learn. So if you're coming here for the first time, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. This video is definitely going to be aimed toward my beginners in recording, but there's always something new to learn about setting your microphone's input gain, the input level while you are recording, because there's so many varying different opinions online and everywhere else that you go about what the proper input level should be. Now, to keep this short, if you just here for something real quick and you want to get back to doing what you was doing in recording, when you are recording, you should aim for an average input level of about -12 dB full scale. So when you're looking on your input meter, you want to kind of see that your peaks are hitting at about -12 dB. Now, if you want to learn more, let's continue watching this video because I'm going to break it down and give you the nitty gritty and all the science behind that topic. So let's start off with the basics. What even is mic gain? Microphone gain is the level that you are amplifying your microphone signal to get it up to a line level that's going to be proper for recording. The reason we need to set mic gain is because microphones are inherently low with their output, and we just can't use those signals on to make a decent recording. So we must set the mic gain using a preamp. Now, most of us will have preamps that are built into our audio interfaces, kind of like the preamp that is built right into this UAD Apollo Twin, but you may also find standalone preamps in other studios. A question I always get asked is, what is the best gain setting? Wayne, how should I set my gain for recording? Now, this definitely depends on a few things. First thing is the source. How loud is the source that you are recording? Are you recording a drum set, a super loud singer, a very soft singer, a rapper, a trumpet? All of that will determine on where you will set that mic gain. Another thing to take into consideration is the distance that the microphone is from the source. So right now I'm really close to this microphone, but if I back up, you'll see that the level gets a little bit quieter, and the closer that I get, the louder I seem to get. So the closer the mic is to the source, the lower you need to set that mic gain. Mic sensitivity also plays a big part in how you should set your mic gain level. If you're using a dynamic mic like the one I'm speaking into now, then the mic gain will need to be a little bit hotter. Especially if you're using something like this SM58, then your mic gain will definitely need to be a little hotter versus, let's say, you're using a condenser or tube mic where the signal is a little bit louder already. So Wavy, how do we set our gain? That's a good question. One thing to consider when setting your gain is headroom versus noise floor. Headroom is making sure that you set the gain low enough to where if your singer or performer or whatever the source is that you're recording gets excited and a little louder, the signal doesn't risk clipping or hitting 0 dB. You always want to avoid that. So for example, if I set my gain at -10 dB, that means that I have 10 dB of headroom or 10 dB of space or extra, room there for my performer or the source to get a little bit louder during the dynamic parts of the performance. On the other hand, if you set the preamp too low, especially if you're working with a more budget preamp, they tend to have a little bit more noisy components. So if you have the signal set too low on your mic gain, then your signal will be very close to that noise floor. And then whenever you have to turn it up, you will also be bringing up that noise from your preamp. Some interfaces and preamps that you use to set your microphone gain will have a meter on them, but all of the DAW software that you're going to be using to record will definitely have an input meter. So let's take a look at the meters in this session. As I'm talking to you right now, and we can see this is my peak indicator. So that is what I mean by you want your average level to be about -12 dB on the peak. And if you notice, my peak is right at 11.9, right, when I'm talking. But sometimes I get a little more excited and it gets a little louder. But that's why we set that gain to where we set it so that the average level is right around that -12 dB on the input. And it gives me enough headroom in case I do get a little excited and some peaks start to get through that recording. Now, let's go ahead and adjust this preamp. I'm just going to reach over here. When I turn my preamp down, you can see that we're not getting much level at all, right? So the signal now is pretty low with this preamp being low. And the more that I turn it up, we're getting a stronger and stronger signal. It's also getting louder and louder. So this is what I would do as I'm setting my preamp. When I have, let me turn that down a little bit. We're getting a little too loud. All right. So the best way to actually set your gain is to actually have your source perform as they normally would during the recording. It's not good enough to just say, yeah, let's get a mic check and have them go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, because most of the time artists are going to get louder or even softer once they start the actual performance. So typically what I'll tell my clients is, hey, I'm going to set your gain, your preamp level, your mic level, the first pass through, and then we'll take a second pass. So I'll just let them go ahead and deliver the performance as they normally would, and I'll be closely watching my meter and adjusting the preamp as needed to get that about negative 12 dB input on average. Now, of course, that's just an average. Some of the peaks will go a little bit higher and some will be a little bit lower, but it's just a good starting point for you. Besides for adjusting your preamp, there's a couple other ways to change the signal input level, and it doesn't have anything to do with these faders and Pro Tools. Actually, the only other two ways that you can change the signal input level is A, change the source level. So if I'm recording a keyboard player or something, I can change the output level on that, or I can move the microphone further or closer away to the source. So again, there's only three ways. We got the preamp, we have the source level, and then we also have microphone placement, which would be another way to adjust your gain. The two main problems with having your gain either too high or too low include distortion and introducing too much noise from a noisy or cheap preamp that you may be using. Now, the main thing is definitely going to be distortion. Let me go ahead and let's turn this up a little bit so you can hear what a distorted signal sounds like. So right now I'm really cranking this up, and if you notice, I am clipping over 0 dB, and we are really getting a crunchy signal now. It probably doesn't sound too good at all. Now let's see if I go too low. Now that I'm too low, whenever I have to turn this up to make it match, you're probably going to start to hear more noise from the preamp come into my signal, even though I do have some exceptionally clean preamps in my UAD. So all in all, try to aim for about a negative 12 dB input level on average for your input signal when adjusting your mic gain. And during the session or during your recording process, always keep an eye on your meter and be mindful that you can make adjustments if the signal gets a little bit loud or too quiet. And I would also dare to say it's best to record a little bit too quiet than to be a little too loud and risk clipping and destroying your signal, because you just can't go back from that. I hope you found this video helpful. I'm Wavy Wayne from wavywayne.com. Make sure you thumbs up and comment down in this comment section below if you have any other questions about this topic. I'll talk to y'all later. Be dope.